Thank you so much for having me. It's really uncomfortable hearing when someone says your resume in front of everyone, so I got to be real with everyone. The last 700 days, that's wild, right? Those results are wild. Back-to-back national championships with UConn by more points in the elimination games than anyone in the history of basketball they won by. Jaylen Brown wins the NBA. Finals MVP, Aaron Gordon wins it, right? This stuff blows my mind because my resume of failures, which he didn't say, is 100 times longer and way more impressive. Way more impressive. See, I'm good at failing. I'm good at making mistakes and moving forward. And what I found was that's the skill, right? That's the skill. By the time you hear someone read historical numbers and big results like that, that's literally because I fail really well. Like really, I failed so well, I failed 3 times talking already, and I don't even know if you noticed. Because I move forward, right? I move forward. I move forward. So this isn't about being perfect or getting all the results or anything about that. This is about learning how to move forward after you make a mistake. Because if you don't stop yourself, how can you be stopped? I remember telling that to Aaron Gordon when he was a little kid. I said, listen to this. If you don't stop yourself, how can you be stopped? And he was like, I can't. I can't be stopped if I do that. So this willingness to move on after you make a mistake, we call it next play speed. It's called next play speed. And I got this little whistle right here. And this whistle is going to help your life. This whistle changed my life. And on it, it says next play speed. So I'm going to go over how did these last 2 years happen? How do you get results like that? How does this happen? How does this all come together? And I want to share with you the mental skills that I taught Jaylen, that I taught Aaron Gordon. It's all we work on at UConn. I'm from San Francisco, so this all started at Mission High School in San Francisco. That's where I first started doing this 20 years ago. Putting it down, I'm from the Bay Area. I'm from here, so it's great to be here. But I want you to leave today knowing these mental skills and knowing you have to practice them all the time. You see, the mental game is not something you luck into when you're born. You don't have to be born with this stuff. You got to practice it. You got to practice this stuff all the time. You guys with me on this? This making some sense? Hey, this is practical stuff, right? This is going to be real practical stuff. I'm going to break it down real simple for you and give you some real practical tools. But the key to this is you practice it. Why Aaron Gordon, Jaylen Brown? I was teaching this at every basketball camp I could. And after I would teach, I would stand there and say, who's going to come up and be curious? And this little kid named Aaron Gordon walks up and goes, what is this all about? And he was about that tall at this time. I didn't know who he was. I just said, man, this kid is curious. So we started working together. 5 years later, he's like this. You know what I mean? And you're like, ooh. But these are kids. Jaylen Brown was just a little kid. I was teaching at a camp. I gave the talk, and I just stand there. Most everyone walks off, and this one little guy was like, hey, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, that's Jaylen Brown. He was curious, so he had an open mind. If you have an open mind for this, you can do this work. Everyone with me? Yes, does that make sense? Yes, if you got a closed mind, there's no way you can do it. This is the gym right here. This is called the mental gym. And we get our work in right here, so you got to open it up, and I'm going to break it down to you. And the first thing, if we want to get to our first slide, you ready? What's important now? Everyone know this word win? Yeah. Let me tell you one thing I never talk about with Jaylen, Aaron, or UConn. Winning. Ever. We never talk about results. Why? This is the first mental skill. And win stands for what's important now. And that means what's actually in your control. That's what counts. You know what's out of your control? Results, making shots, winning, outcomes, other people, yesterday, tomorrow, the other team, referees, your teammates. Basically, almost everything is out of your control but what you do. So what's important now is about going, okay, if I want to win, if I want to get these results, let me focus on the stuff that counts. How many times have I seen kids anxiously worried about results? And they're like, oh my God, I got to win. I'm like, man, your mind's in the wrong place. If you listen to Jaylen Brown in the finals, if you heard him talk, I don't know if anyone heard him talk, he's speaking the mental game. They would ask him, are you going to win the next game? And what would he say? I'm present. I'm not even worried about the next game. I'm just here right now. He would say, breathe, breathe, trust. He's never talking results. Now, this is someone who's been trained in this, so under immense pressure, he knows, I'm going to focus on what's important now. Where a lot of people start thinking about results. The day before Aaron Gordon made it to the finals, he called me the day before. He goes, okay, Graham, we're here now. This is what we've been working for since I was 11. And he goes, what do we do now? Like, what do we do now? And I was like, young man, we do the same stuff we've been training for 14 years. And he was like, oh, they got nothing that can stop me. And if you watch the first 5 minutes of the NBA Finals, Aaron Gordon went to work. I think he scored the first 12 points. He told me he was going to do that. He knows the Joker's the player, but he was like, watch this, G, because he was focused on what's important now. He's like, who cares what the results are? Let's get so locked in and go for it. Just making sense? Yeah. This is not out there, right? This is just, let's focus on what we can't control. The bigger the moment, your mind's going to want to go to results. Everyone around you is going to go to results. That's when your mental training kicks in and goes, I'm going to focus on what's important now. So this is the foundational mental skill. Everything you do in life, ask yourself, what's in my control right now? What's in my control? And we want to own what's in our control. That's what counts. That's what matters. That's how we win. So you might focus on what's important now. You might have a great effort, great attitude, great focus. You control all these things. Trusting your game, accepting what's outside of your control, being present. This is all we focus on. That's how you win. That's winning. But you got to do it every day. So this is where the mental game ties into every other aspect of training. You got to do it all the time. This isn't a quick fix. When you're working on your game, lifting weights, doing strength and conditioning, or whatever you're doing, you do it all the time. Practice. The mental game is about practicing all the time. Does that make sense? That makes sense. So what's important now is where this all starts. Caitlin, you ready? Let's go to the next one. This took me 25 years to get to. This took me 25 years to get to. What's important now? We call it TAP. And what I've found is this skill right here is the actual skill that counts. This is it. Let me break this down for you. When we say tap, we say this. Did you trust your game? So think about anything you're doing right now. Trust is fully in your control. Steph Curry can shoot a basketball pretty good. You guys with me on that? He shoots it. Did you know people shoot at a higher percentage than him? Shoot threes? You know what he's really good at? How well does he trust his game? I'm serious. It's absurd, right? His trust of his game is remarkable. That's totally in his control. And think of the next one. Acceptance. Trust and acceptance go hand in hand. I never knew these were powerful mental skills. The acceptance is, can I accept what happens after I trust? Period. Because remember our first mental skill, can we control results? No. So we're not going to focus on that. So the acceptance is, I'm going to fully accept the results after I trust. Let me show you why Steph Curry is so good at this. He's got the record for most threes in a game. Everyone know that? You know what else he's got the record for? Most misses in a game. Most misses. And let me show you how tap works. Let's say you're on the court. You miss your first shot. You miss your second. By the time you miss your third, most people are questioning if they should trust their game. You with me on that? You're real. You miss three, you're like, oh, must not be my day, right? That's a common thing to say. Steph Curry goes, I'm fully accepting I'm missing three. I might have to miss 15 today. I might. That might be what happens. But I will never stop trusting. You can't unlearn how to shoot a basketball after 3 shots. But if you don't trust it and you don't accept the results, you're not even going to shoot it. And you could have a killer game, but you don't trust. And you don't accept. So here's where the acceptance gets real. Ooh, 4 things have gone wrong. And your mind's like, don't trust. Don't trust, right? Don't do it. And this is where you got to go, no, I am going to trust. I'm going to lean right into that, and I'm going to go. That's where you put your competitive nature. This is where we fight. This is it. We fight to trust. We fight to accept the results. And what does accepting the results mean? It means you learn to live with yourself when nothing goes your way. They read my resume. It's insane. I would have won the MVP of mental training if there was an MVP, right? Back to back. But I accepted all the failure that led to that. And I kept trusting it. There's people in this room that I started training 8 years ago with the first app I made. Jake's in the building. Andre's in the room. The future of mental training. I never give up on this. And what I've seen with the best athletes mentally, they ride in this. They go for it. And they're like, I'm willing to accept whatever happens. They go in that. And here's the third piece. Presence. Everyone check your feet out. Everyone look down at your feet real quick. We say be where your feet are. So if your feet are in this room, guess what? You got to be in this room too. And I don't just mean your body. I mean your energy, your mind, your focus. You see, we're always focused. It just may not be on the right thing. But you're always focused on something. So here's how we do it. We say, okay, after you perform, the average person asks, how many points did you score? Did you win? Right? That's the basic questions. We ask this, how was your tap? How was your tap today? And you can get a perfect tap, that's 300. That means you trusted 100. Your acceptance, 100. Presence, 100. That's a perfect game right there. Does that make sense, everyone? Yes, sir. So now you're asking, hey, how's your tap? How's your tap? And if someone's like, man, I'm not trusting right now, you already know they're not trusting because they're not accepting. Anytime someone doesn't want to trust, they're not accepting that a certain result might happen. I don't want to fail, right? I don't want to do it. What we say is the only fail is you don't trust and accept. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. When we're playing sports, you're never in danger doing this. Does that make sense? Yeah. You're not. In your mind, you might think, oh my God, it's so dangerous. You're not in danger trusting your game. No matter what goes on, you're not in danger accepting the results. And being present in this moment, this is the place to be. It's always right now, and we're always right here. So this is the metric. If you think numbers, this is the number that counts. If you're like, I want to win, cool. How's your tap? And if you're like, I'm not going to trust, oh, you may not want to win. You know what I mean? Like, you may not want to win. You might just, I don't know, do something else. But whatever, think about this. Think about your own life right now. Where could you trust a little more? Where could you accept a little more? Where could you be a little more present? How powerful would that be if you did this? If you're a leader, you coach other people, you teach other people. How powerful is it to do this, to model this? I had a chance to meet Michael Jordan one time. It was like an amazing moment for me. And Michael Jordan has a mental performance coach, and his name is George Mumford. George Mumford is like talking to Yoda. It's no joke. You sit and talk to him, and I think he knows everything. You know what I mean? Like, he's 85 years old. And I met Mike, and I was with Aaron Gordon. And I said, hey, Mike, what George Mumford is to you, I am to Aaron Gordon. And Mike shook my hand and said, George saved my life. And I was like, nobody knows that. This guy wasn't born superhuman. He put in the work to work with George Mumford. Worked on his stuff. Worked on all of it. So none of this is what you're born with. It's how you train. That's why we call this mental training. And this is a mental skill. What's your tap? You hitting 300 or not? And if you're not hitting 300, check in with yourself. Why wasn't I trusting? And then ask yourself, what was I not accepting? I accepted everything that happened on this journey. So the last 2 years had historical winning, right? That's how it works. So you put your competitive nature to this. You put your fight to this. Any part of you that tells you don't trust, you say, no, I'm going to go do it. No, I'm going to go do it. Because you know what happens when you don't trust and you don't accept? This is a guarantee. If you're playing in a game and you think, oh, I'll be safe here and not trust my game, maybe in that moment you feel a little relief for whatever reason. Do you know how you feel when you go home that night? You all know, horrible. Horrible. You sit in your bed and you think all night about why didn't I do that? So you're not safe, not trusting. It's actually worse. So in the moment when you're thinking, I don't want to do it, remind yourself, I either do the hard work in this moment or I deal with this later and it's much worse. So what we do in the moment is we say, hey, let's go trust. You know what happens when you trust in the game when you don't want to? and you accept the results, do you know what happens? You feel amazing later on. You're like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Why would I never not trust my game? Does that make some sense? Okay. Quick story, then we'll get on to the next skills. George Mumford, also Kobe Bryant's mental performance coach, they were on the way to the game one time. And George said to Kobe, hey, Kobe, don't try to score today. Just be present and trust, and let's see what happens. And Kobe had been doing mental training, so he knew what was up. He knew what that meant. He goes, okay, I have the mental discipline to be in each moment and trust. And George was like, no, you can't count points. No matter what's going on, you have to stick with it. And Kobe was like, okay, I'll do it, right? He's a competitor. 81 points later, you already knew what was coming. The second highest scoring game in basketball history, he wasn't trying to score. You with me? You can't control if the ball goes in the hoop. If someone says they can, man, we should go to a hoop right now. It's not going to happen. But he was like, I'll trust the whole game. So he's got 45. Is he thinking about 45? No, he's in the present moment, engaged in what's happening, going. He's got 60. Is he done? No, he's in the present moment, going. He's got 70. Is he done? No, I'm in the present moment, going. You see how this works? If you're a fool playing the outcome, and you happen to have a 40-point game, most people check out after 40 points. I got my result. At UConn, we never cared about the results. We cared about this. So we're up by 12 points with 4 minutes to go. We're not thinking the game's won. We end up winning that game by 20. Because ruthlessly, you never stop doing this. Just making sense? You see how this works? You see how this is totally in your control? You see that no one can stop you from this? You see that you're totally safe if you do this? You know if you don't do it, it's going to hurt later on. And I don't say that to scare anyone, but you got a choice. You want to put the work in now or you want to hurt later on. That's it. If you don't put the work in now and you don't do this, later on it's like having a bad credit card debt. It's a bad debt. You feel horrible. It's tough. Let me tell you another game. It's after the game. Kobe Bryant's sitting in the locker. He's euphoric. Euphoric confidence. He's got his feet in the ice bath. He's like, man, played an incredible game. And I was working with a rookie, and he was like, what? This dude is insane. What's wrong with this guy? He just missed 22 shots. This is the worst game of his life. And Kobe was like, man, you have no idea what's going on. Because Kobe's tap was perfect. Perfect tap. So whether you miss 22 shots or score 81, that's the same. You see how that works? See how that works? That's how we compete. That's what you put your energy into. So I'm in the mental performance space. I'm a strength coach for your mind. And what I want you to think about doing is every day challenge yourself for this. Every day ask, what's my tap? I'll be tapping my foot like, nice. I just remind myself I'm tapping right now. I'm doing it right now on stage. Right here with you. So any metric, numbers that you want to track, see if you can hit 300 with this. Everyone with me on that? Okay, that's a goal. All right, let's move to the next slide. Let me get a little water here real quick. It's hot in here, huh? Super. Man, I'm cooking. I never wear a white shirt, and I'm like, oh, man. Okay. So here's the deal. Win and tap. That's it. You want to win? Tap. That's it. I can walk out the door now. That's it. I'm serious. That's it. That took me 25 years to get it that simple. Win. You win, you tap. That's it. You don't want to win, don't tap. So now we get into, man, tap is hard. So I want to teach you a couple skills that help you tap. These are the foundational skills. The first one is what we call palms down. Tell me if you've ever seen this on a basketball court. Something doesn't go someone's way, right? And they do this. Oh, you ever seen that? It's like a universal helpless sign. Oh, the ref. Right away when someone does this, they're thinking about the past. They're focused on something they cannot control. They're reacting with pathetic body language. This on the court, this doesn't inspire anything. And yes, some great players do this. I'm thinking about them right now. Right now. It's okay. It's the hardest for the best players because they're always in the action. So that, stuff's happening. So palms down is this. Yes, something just happened. And instead of reacting to it, I'm going to choose my response. So I might have just got fouled and there was no call. I'm going to choose my response and move on to that next play. So I want everyone to do this. Put your palms in front of you like this. This is the palms down right here. This is a real move. This is a move. Just like this. Don't ever do this when you compete. At UConn, if we ever see someone do this, you know what we think? Go at that person. That person has no idea what's going on. They're focused on what, you put your hands down, they're focused on what they can control. And they're going palms up. If you're going palms up, we know your mental game's not too crispy. Make sense? You guys with me? So going back to the NBA Western Conference Finals, Denver versus the Lakers. Aaron Gordon's guarding LeBron James. You know, it's a great matchup. They get a little frustrated at one moment. I don't know if you remember this. LeBron, neck, right? No one really saw what happened after that. You know what Aaron did? He took a breath and moved on to the next play. Instead of pushing back and reacting. He called me that night and he was like, it's over, G. I hit him with the palms down in real time, in real moments. And it was over. Is it not? If someone chooses their response, there's nothing you can do. They're like, cool, that's all right. No big deal. You got a real competitor. I knew Dan Hurley was doing good at UConn because at one point there was a crazy call. And he couldn't quite do the palms down. His hands wanted to come up. And he went, ah! And he put them behind his back. And he was like, ah! And I was like, it's not quite this, but you're getting there. It's hot in here. So palms down is a real move. We don't react. We respond. We take a breath. And we move on. Let's all do that together. You ready? We don't react. We respond. We take a breath. And we move on. One more time. We don't react. We respond. We take a breath. And we move on. That's game right there. Memorize that mantra. We say it every day. Dele and I got a mental training gym we do every Sunday. That's the end of our mental training every Sunday. We leave with that mantra. I take a breath and I move on. So palms down, coming back to tap. You're out there on the court or whatever game, you're like, I don't want to trust. Right? I don't want to trust. In your mind you go, no, I am going to trust. That's like I'm going to choose my response. So palms down is the counter to anything trying to take you away from trusting. Does that make sense? Oh, I don't want to accept if I fail. Psst, I'm going to. I'm going to learn to do it. I'm choosing my response. So that's palms down. It is a lethal mental skill under pressure. If you're you're going to have some problems, especially if you're going against someone who's been doing this work. Jaylen Brown knows about it. Aaron Gordon knows about it. You guys with me? This is practice. You've got to practice the palms down. All right, Caitlin, let's move on to the next one. So, bringing it back. We choose our response. We get good body language. And what are we doing? We're coming back with our next play speed. Next play speed is how fast can I come back? The word speed means you got to do it fast. We don't have time to even do this for a second. Boom, on to that next play. So next play speed is like an ERA for a pitcher. You want your next play speed real low. If your next play speed is like 5 minutes and it takes you 5 minutes to refocus, we're in big trouble. You want your next play speed in under a second. Bang. Bang, I'm on with it. Does that make sense? Here's how we train it. We got the little train whistle. So when we get off track, we got to get back on track. So this train whistle is a training tool, and it's going to work like this. I'm going to blow this whistle twice. Just like that. And after I blow it, I want everyone to do this. Next play speed. 3 claps while you say next play speed. What you're doing is you're breaking up whatever was going on in your mind, jarring it free, clapping a physical sensation to bring you back, and we're moving on to that next play. They wouldn't allow me to sit on the sideline of this. Can't do it during the game, but you can do it during practice. You guys ready to try? Let's do it. That's not bad. I bet you never forget this. I bet you never. That's my goal. A silly train whistle. You'll never forget this. This will get you a diamond ring. This will get you a championship ring. UConn sent me 2 rings. It's insane. I never thought any of that would happen. All from a silly train whistle and we move on to the next play fast. You see how these work together? Here's my response. Oh my God, refocus. And that brings up, Caitlin, if you're ready, let's move that on. We're back to the present. And we're back to where our feet are. We're not in our heads somewhere else, worried about what might happen in the future. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, we're on it. We're on it. Now I'm back. And I'm back on track. And if you see the S, it's a money sign. Hey, so if you're good at next play speed, it's money time. And I mean that literally. Jaylen Brown signed a $300 million deal. That's insane. Come on. And he's like, I'm doing this. If I don't stop myself, man, they end up paying me a lot. So in your own life, whatever you're going for, grades, whatever it is you're looking for, man, get really good at bouncing back. Really good. Make sense, everybody?
Yeah.
You might want to get a train whistle. This really works. Let's try it. There it is. And now we're back in the present, back to where our feet are. And what do we do when we're back in the present? Tap. Tap. I'm trusting what's in my control. I'm accepting what's out of my control. And I'm back in the present. The present is the place to be. It's where life lives. It's always right now. When tomorrow shows up, you know what it is? Today. You with me? What time is it? It's always right now. Tell me when it's not right now. It is. So that's the mental game right there. You want to win, you tap. If you're not tapping, choose your response, palms down. Fast next play speed. We're back to the present. And when we're back in the present, we're tapping in. Does that make sense? Yeah. You see how that works? Yeah. That took me 25 years. 25 years to get simple language like that, and I did it for you. I did it for everyone in this room. And I want you to take it, and I want you to run with it. I want you to make it yours. I want you to train with this. If you got kids, I want you to ask them about this before you ask them about points and outcomes and grades. Ask them about this stuff. Train on this stuff. And here's the superpower. We're almost done. Here's the superpower. I got this belt. I got this belt here. And on this belt, it says victory to the vulnerable. Everyone see that? You are a bad MFer if you're willing to be vulnerable and tap in. So when you're back in the present, and whatever took you away from tapping, and you chose your response, palms down, you use your next play speed, and now you're 10 toes down back in the moment, you strap this belt on, and you lean into whatever you're feeling, and you tap in. Does that make sense? And you get to have the belt. And you get to wear this belt with pride, because victory to the vulnerable is real. When I'm talking vulnerability, I'm not talking like jump off this building. That's dangerous. I'm talking you're in a game, trust your skills. We've already established you're safe. So on this belt, we bring this everywhere. It says next play speed, palms down, walk to win. Walk to win means what you in a hurry for? Do it right now. We walk to win with lethal patience. Don't anxiously run to a result you can't control. Come 10 toes down right here. In the very bottom, it says magic with the math. That's the last thing. Magic with the math means this. Instead of focusing on numbers and outcomes, we focus on the magic. And the magic is everything up here. And as Dele said, the results, the math shows up. Don't you worry about that. Does that make sense? 81 points, a couple championships, a bunch of finals MVPs. That's called the math. But that doesn't come from anxiously worrying about results. That comes from being devoted to the mental game. So my goal is I want you to experience victory to the vulnerable. I want you to experience what that feels like. And I'm going to call on someone in about 30 seconds to come up on stage. Watch this. It got real quiet. Keep it real. When I said I'm calling on someone in 30 seconds, how many of you immediately felt something in your stomach? Raise your hand. Go ahead. I did it on purpose. I know what I'm doing. How many of you immediately when you felt that thought, don't call on me? Raise your hand. Keep it real. That's how fast palms up happens. You see that? That fast, without even thinking. And all I said was, I might call up you. I'm not going to call on anyone. But I might. Sometimes I do that to start the talk. People hate me for that. Because the whole talk, they got to sit with it. What's he gonna do? That feeling in your stomach, call it joy, don't call it pressure, and go towards it. It doesn't go away, but you can reframe what it is. You can use your mental skills. Hey, Graham, call on me. Victory to the vulnerable. I want to go experience that. Does that make sense? Yes. Man, well, I appreciate your time. That's what I wanted to share today. Man. I'm Graham Betchart, man. Appreciate you guys. I'm gonna go grab it. Hey, it's real. It's real when you feel this, though. This is real. This is real.
Oh, man.
This is real.
All right, thanks, Graham. That was awesome. Now we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So let's go ahead. If anybody has a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We're going to have Q run over and hand you the mic. I'm going to hand this back over to Graham here. I'm trying to stop sweating.
Okay. How we doing? Any questions? Yeah, let's go. What we got?
Wait, I got you. I got to run to you.
Thank you so much. Graham, super inspirational. Thank you so much. I'm interested in how you got to where you got. Books, mentors, all that stuff. I'm always interested in the hero's journey here. And I'm sure everyone feels the same way I do. Very touching and very inspirational, and actual tools to be used to enhance our lives and make us better. Thank you.
No, man, thank you. That's a great question. In 1997, I was going through a hard time. My first year of college basketball, I went to Cabrillo down in Santa Cruz, JC. And I was like, I can't just pretend to be positive through. I was feeling so lost in life. And I called my mom on a payphone. There was payphones back then. I said, hey, Mom, I need help. And she said, did you know you could rewire your brain? And I have no idea what that meant, but I heard hope. So I was like, I'm in. And she introduced me to a counselor in San Francisco who blew my mind. You know what I mean? Like, this is 1997. I'm 19 years old. I'm learning to meditate, to visualize, power of positive self-talk. I'm breathing. I'm doing all that. And I leave these sessions, and I'm like, surely everyone in the world is doing this, because this is the greatest discovery of all time. And I looked around, and nobody was doing it, and there was stigmas against this stuff. So I finished college in 2001. And if you guys remember Donald Foyle, used to play for the Warriors back in the day. He's a great friend. We became good friends, and he said a sentence to me I'll never forget. He said, have you ever heard of sports psychology? And I said, no. But I knew right away that was my calling. And that was 20 years ago, almost to the day. And he said, Graham, just so you know, there's no jobs in this field. There's no money, no jobs, and there's a terrible stigma. And I was like, cool, I got an advantage, huh? So my approach was, man, know what, like, that's like someone saying water's bad for you, and you're like, are you serious? Well, and I'll just drink water right in front of them, you know? So I knew I had an advantage, and I wanted to frame it different than you're asking for help in a crisis. That's a bad approach to mental training. So I said, I'm going to do proactive mental skills training, and I'm going to proactively teach kids these skills. That was my goal. So I went around the Bay Area, Mission High School, Midi High School, all the basketball. I went everywhere I could just sharing this stuff. That's where I met Aaron Gordon as a kid, Jaylen Brown. So the NBA wasn't calling. I was helping kids go there. And by the time Zach LaVine was interviewing with the Phoenix Suns, and he goes, how are you going to train my mind? And they were like, what are you talking about? He goes, dude, I train all the time. Who's your trainer? And they were like, we don't have one. And he goes, oh, you need someone like Graham. And then the NBA teams start calling. So I've just been in service helping people, sharing with them, fully being present the whole time. 20 years has felt like, it still feels like the same moment I started. So I've been super present with it. The whole I came up with this language is I'm living this stuff. I'm living walk to win. I'm living magic with the math. I'm living victory to the vulnerable, because that's what I experienced. And I was like, let's just stick with this stuff. And if it doesn't work, then we can tell everyone it doesn't work. It does work. So we got to do it. So that's my story. Here I am just serving. I never thought it would get this big or where it was going to go. And I'm blown away by all this stuff. Anyone else? Yeah. Jump in.
First off, beer is legendary. I'm trying to construct a question in my mind for a minute. I wanted to kind of go back to what you said about Jaylen Brown and a little bit about Kobe. Where do you feel do you feel that maybe there's a thin line when you're a competitor like Kobe, when you take it to an extent where you focus so heavily on winning that you do sort of lose sight of where you are in the present moment when things are kind of going not necessarily in the team's direction or even in your own direction? Do you feel that there is a thin line in between being a competitor and, I won't say obsessed, but sort of focusing too much on being present to try to get the results you're trying to achieve, if that makes sense?
It does. Thank you for that. So think about, right, this obsession with results, right, like an overwhelming obsession. When we see people obsessed with results on a deep level, you usually know there's an imbalance. Like, why do you need the result like that so bad? Why do you feel so uncomfortable inside that you need to go show and prove something like that? You know what I mean? Like, you see that a lot. Like, oh, I got to be better than someone. Usually you don't feel very good inside. So when you say competing, and we go back to TAP, think of the acceptance. If you're obsessed on controlling results, you're not in flow. Because you're obsessed on something you can't control. And sometimes people are good enough at what they're doing, they can have the illusion that they can control stuff. Like most NBA players in high school are usually really good, so they're like, oh, I can just go win. Because they're just better than everyone. And it's a lesson you got to go through that you can't. And you start to get into the acceptance, letting go of the results. And the funny thing is, that's where you get bigger results. So the young person is like, I got to get these results. Their older, wiser self is, hey, we actually know how to get those results. And it's not through that obsession. We obsess now on being present and letting go. And when we let go, you end up doing things way beyond what you think you can do. And that's like the highest level I've seen. But you kind of got to go through your process sometimes. Because being like wanting to be successful and get results is not a bad thing. Just don't let that derail your life. And that becomes everything. With self-esteem, I see a lot of people that are like, they have a comparison confidence. So they're like, if I got a 4.0, I feel good. If someone else has a 4.1, I'm crushed. That's not confidence, is it? That's practice. Because you're comparing yourself to an outside number that's totally out of your control. You see how this works? So you want to be like, how present am I? How much am I here? That ends up bringing up a self-worth inside of you that has nothing to do with comparisons. So most of the time, the obsession with the result means I really need to see that I'm better than someone. And there's something way more powerful inside of you that makes peace with that. And the funny thing is, when you make peace with that, you're a way more lethal competitor. Does that make sense? Just, keeping it real. I work in the Navy. I work with all kinds of people. Imagine a warrior going in a fight, and they're like, I don't want to die today. You'd be like, okay. And imagine there's another warrior who's like, today's the day I die, and today's the day I die. You don't want to fight that person. You know what I mean? You don't want to fight that person. You want the one who's obsessed on living. The one who's like, I'm cool either way. That's a problem. Does that make sense? They've won the fight inside. They're like, I'm cool either way. They're present and dialed. Ooh, that's a tough competitor because they've won the biggest fight ever, the one with themselves. So thank you for that. That's a great question. Hope that helps. Okay, right on. Yep.
So what advice would you give to people in like single sport athletes where it's just them on the, for me I'm a wrestler, so it's just me on the mat against my like competitor and there's nobody else, no other teammates. What advice would you give to me as far as like controlling that?
Yeah, well, I like to look at it like the competitor is really yourself. You're going against someone else. You're going against your own self. So when you're doing that, tap still works. Fully trusting all your moves. Fully accepting the things out of your control. Fully locking into the present. I work with an incredible jiu-jitsu fighter right now. He's a world champion. And this is all we work on. And he goes, once I stopped thinking about results and stuff and just started being in my body fully present, he was like, Graham, people can't do anything to me. I don't even care about results. He's showing me like 5 gold medals. He's like, I don't even care about this. He figured it out. So keep practicing tapping in, being present, focusing on what you can control. And remember this, guys, these are skills. This isn't like I'm going to talk for a half hour and you got it. My goal was you're aware now. Now let's go get it every day. Practice, practice, practice. So keep practicing with this stuff. Stick with it. All this stuff works, whether you're individual, team, violin player, artist, doesn't matter. This stuff works on surgeons, works for everybody. Thanks, man. Yeah, right on.
We have time for
One more?
question.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to hang around after, so I'm here, so we can talk.
Graham, you can pick.
How about with the pink? Yeah, let's do it.
You can still yell though.
Thank you so much. Love it. I was curious, what do you consider your greatest failure as a mental skills coach, and what tip or skill did you develop or use to address that failure?
I got so many. Let me pick out some good ones for you. I remember in 2016, we were going to build a company called Lucid Performance. There's people in this room who've used Lucid, the app. We had $2 million poured in, and my job was to be the voice of Lucid and be the voice of that. We ran out of money in 18 months, and everyone left, and they did other stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is all I have. So I started another company after with no money called Train the Mind. Built that. That didn't work. That failed. Started another company. That didn't work. And the person I was trying to work with, turned out they weren't even like a real human being. Like, it was like fraud the whole time. So I go through like a 2-year experience. That didn't work. Then I started another one. That didn't work. So I'm in the failure right now. I'm in this moment. I'm not talking basketball mental training. That's obviously hit some stuff. But I'm talking, I've been working on business stuff for 12 years, and it's never worked. So I'm sitting here 12 years into it, but in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm close. If 5 companies didn't work, I must be close, right? So that's my mindset, you know what I mean? I must be close. Thank you. Anyway, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.